we're going to now do the second whole movement called Exalted Self. And this whole movement is composed of 4 individual movements. So I narrate the movements, I will narrate the movements as we do the motion, and we go from there. We start in 0-point balance. So 5, 6, 7, and 8. Inflowing wave to foundation, and interchanging wave. A symmetrical interchanging wave is this movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the last one of interchanging wave. 2, 3, 4. This is crowning the earth. And this is returning to foundation. And the outflowing wave becomes elevational crown. The farthest extension to the top of the head, crown, the farthest extension and extension of the arms. Now from then it becomes a big inflowing wave, a large moon, and an inflowing wave that is called folded self, arriving to a connection called deity. And deity will have 4 counts of a stillness and motion, and then we unfold the movement and we arrive to 0 point in order then to do the leg release again, releasing the legs, crisscrossing the leg, starting the spiral, returning to 0 point, arriving to 0 point. And actually giving the details of the movement, this movement, I would like to clarify the difference between interchanging balance that we did in the first section and the interchanging wave that we do in this 4th section. Remember, in the interchanging balance in the first section, from foundation, we go into the side plane, changing the weight of the body to return to the center, and then and so forth. We're moving from symmetry to asymmetry by learning to move the whole torso toward the side. In this 4th section, the interchanging wave is actually completely different in the sense that the arms are moving toward the diagonal as going to a crown, but the 7 centers within the center of space are really actually rotating inside of each of the centers. And this is a practice. Would like to give you this as a preparation almost. Remember, there is an exercise that most of you have seen, that sometimes we crisscross the leg and then we go with the arm and then we push around and we create like force between all the vertebrae to really rotate within themselves. In this particular movement, we'll do it not through the force of the whole spine grinding itself to be able to rotate, but we do it through the center of space. So once you begin to become familiar with the center of space, and the first motion of it, the first reflex again, is in the pelvis, that the pelvis lifts and rotates. Then the second is the pelvis itself, the third one is the solar plexus, the 4th one is the chest, the 5th one is the neck and throat, the 6th one is the head, and the 7th is the crown. The idea that you learn to rotate the whole spiral of the spine inside of the extension of the spine without having to go down into the spine to push it, to extend it, because then you mash the centers. So the idea is to increase the existence of the centers, and then from the centers all the vertebrae can rotate in the full extension without having to compress to sense the force of rotation. So it's a delicate movement, but if you begin just to practice very, very gently, especially putting a pillow under, that you don't have to really worry about your legs, and you say, okay, this is the pelvic floor. The first thing is, okay, that's the pelvis. Now, the second, the pelvis, I'm going to rotate the pelvis. Oh, I see, that's the pelvis. Now, the solar plexus, along with, okay, right here. And you will notice that now I'm facing diagonal already. Now, the heart, and top. Okay, now I'm almost going to past the point of 180 degrees. Now the throat. Oh, wow, now I'm almost in the side of the room. Now the head and the crown here. So I have gone all the way around myself in order to return again. So the outflowing wave this time incorporates the whole rotation of the whole spine. Remember, in the first movement, the outflowing wave stays symmetrical and it goes from the pelvic floor to the crown. In this movement, the outflowing wave becomes asymmetrical and it rotates the whole spine to come back into neutral and so on. So this is a very important detail again that you understand. And then if you really try the other one, you will notice that if you go through the pressure, you will notice that you'll have to grind to be able to rotate. So I said, okay, what it will be not to grind the vertebrae, but to rotate them inside of it. And even that movement can begin to be created in that direction. But right now, just in the simplicity of the crisscross, just find the rotation within yourself. All right? Beautiful. Then after we do that movement, the interchanging wave, which is the rotation of the whole spine inside of the 7 centers, as opposed to the interchanging balance, which is going to the side of the body. Then after that movement, we do something that is called crowning the earth. And after the fourth time that we do the interchanging wave, we'll come to foundation. And foundation is a sphere that is quite small. It's the size of a sphere. And imply the sphere that corresponds to the pelvic floor again. So I am an inner arc and I am in the pelvic floor. Biomechanically speaking, the whole centralization of the body is neutralized and actualized in the pelvic floor. And then the expanding of the earth is the release of the whole spine. And we crown in the earth by expanding it asymmetrically all the way up to the crown. And then, since we have this sphere that is asymmetrical, the center is a little bit asymmetrical as well. So as we rotate the earth, we're rotating the whole skeleton from this asymmetrical side a little bit to the other side of it. And then we come back to symmetry, and then from symmetry, we unleash the wave, and this time, crown, instead of completing the usual crown here, follows to the place in the earth, in the ground. And in the ground, the actual direction of the completion of the crown correspond to the actual direction of the completion of the top of the head. So that's the reason it's called crowning, actually elevational crown. The touching of the floor elevates me completely inside of the spiral. So then from the elevational crown, the inflowing wave, big enormous inflowing wave, descend me to foundation. It also opened me up into moon, a larger moon. And now, as I go into deity, every frame that I'm coming around to go back to this place is another vertebra of the spine that falls within itself. So the throat, the chest, the solar plexus, the lower back, the pelvis. So by the time I get to deity, my entire spine have folded very, very gently. So all the vertebrae are inside of the formation of the whole spine. No vertebra have gone into any place of rotation into the external compression, but remain completely open. So deity is a folding of the whole body and a full open state. And by open state means that no edge has been added to the movement. It's just in the center of itself. It's like a cat. You know, when a cat rests, it falls into itself. It never goes into an edge. So it falls into itself, and then when it moves, it unfolds from within. So in this whole movement, the completion of the second, in this individual movement, with this whole movement going to deity, we arrive to the folding of all the centers of the body with no compression. And then the opening of all of the centers creates then the complete release of the self, arriving to 0 point in order to release the placement of the legs, to facilitate release of the hip, to facilitate the change of the leg, to facilitate the spiral that brings you back into the definition of 0 point, for the next movement. Further clarifying the interchanging wave, it's important that we understand that we start in the symmetrical foundation, and then when we start the wave, one arm unfold, outflowing way into crown, and the other arm balances the rotation of the whole spine. So the direction of this arm and the relationship of the arm that it goes to crown is actually facilitating or actually corresponding to the entire release of the spine. So I would like you to see that every time that we arrive to a symmetrical foundation, then it's the beginning of the springing of the spiral of the spine, and the arm that corresponds to crown goes to a much forward direction. Remember that before both arms were in crown. So if the spine is moving from symmetry to asymmetry, then the arm cannot continue being in crown because it wasn't corresponding there. So you will begin to notice that the degree that you are rotating the spine, it will determine the other balance of the arm, and the balance means that the directions that they are existing or moving in a space facilitate the spiral of the spine. So just to show you, if I were to be here and I will be with the arm, you see I couldn't be able to move my shoulder anymore because I tried to create a spiral in my spine, but my arm is going the opposite direction. So begin to notice that the direction of the corresponding arm that is unfolding to crown, the other arm, is always balancing the spiral of the spine. So then you begin to understand that what the other arm is doing when the predominant arm is going to crown. Because it's easy, the first movement, crown, going to the unfolded way is going to be the easiest movement for you because that's the most direct movement. And then you will say, what am I doing with the other arm? With this arm is moving to crown then. And you will notice through the video and as you practice that the other arm unfold forward to support the spiral of the spine. They gather the wave, they come back to a symmetrical foundation, and then the unfolding of that flowing wave directs you to the direction of the arm, the support of the spine. Yes, you will see these details and you will begin to understand that the biomechanical placement in a space correspond to the energetic release of the spine. So you matching the structural with the spatial, and that creates the energy, or that manifests the energy. Yeah, wonderful. Also, I'd like to clarify that the interchanging wave, this movement, it follows the same principle that the outflowing, the unity in motion movement. And in other form, remember that in unity in motion, as we unfolding the wave to crown, we raise the energy all the way to the top of the head. So in here, the same thing is occurring. As I initiate the outflowing wave and initiate the rotation of all the centers and all the vertebrae in the spine, the energy races from the pelvic floor to the crown. So by the time I get to crown in my arms, I'm also, in my fingers and arms, I'm also in crown in the head. And then, from that momentum in which I arrive to crown in the head, I return through the crown. So I have ascended from the pelvic floor to the crown, and now from the crown, I'm coming back again to foundation. So it unfolds from the pelvic floor to the crown, and from the crown, coming back to the symmetrical foundation. Pelvic floor, pelvis, solar plexus, chest, throat, head, crown, crown, head, throat, chest, solar plexus, pelvis, pelvic floor, pelvis, solar plexus, chest, throat, head, crown, head, throat, chest, solar plexus, pelvis, pelvic floor, pelvis, solar plexus, chest, throat, head, that's the crown, head, throat, chest, solar plexus, pelvis, pelvic floor. Now when I'm unfolding the earth, as I expand in the earth, it's pelvic floor, pelvis, solar plexus, and when I get to the solar plexus, I'm already in crown as well. And once you get to the center of the heart, you are in crown. And then rotating all the 7 centers to the other side of the earth. Now returning all the 7 centers to the vertical extension of the 7 centers. Remember the suspended wave? And now descending from above to foundation. And now going and unfolding wave all the way to crown. And when I touch the floor, therefore, I'm already in crown. So I can elevate even more, all of it inside of you. It's important that you understand also that when you elevate, you're developing an elevation at the center of a space, not an elevation of the skeleton, because that will push you back. If I try to raise the skeleton, I'm going backwards. So I am in the center of all of the vertebrae. That's what you're developing, an internal sensation of the elongation through the center of a space. That's the reason it's called elevational crown. And then from then, you're ready to come back to the foundation again, to expand all the way to crown. And now when you go to deity, when you're going to begin to fold deity, you're folding crown, that's the center of the head, that is the throat, that will become the solar plexus. Now I arrive into all the organs in my abdominal area, arrive into the pelvic floor, arrive into the beginning of the floor right there. So by the time I get to the center of foundation, I am in the inner arc, inside of myself. And I'm completely connected to it in the folding of the body, in a stillness. And then, as I unfold deity, everything, including the legs, a little bit open through the center, through all the centers. And then when you attain the maximal extension again through the crown, it returns around through the radius of the circle into self. So now we will do this second whole movement again with the metronome. And now you know a little bit what it is that I'm doing, but since I'm explaining it to you a little bit before. And I want you to see this time that through the interchanging wave that I'm really raising the energy to the crown, and then I return to the crown in each of the movements that I do. And you know now the folding of deity, that everything is folding into 0 point foundation and then the unfolding into it. And I want you to see also that the fluid or flowing aspect of the movement, it's not just something that I'm doing, it's something that is a result of my structure being in the center of a space. So it's like I'm balancing the skeleton, the actual physical skeleton, and the phenomenal aspect that takes place then, that the energetic field becomes the fountain from which then I'm seemingly moving as fluid or flowing. So it's not necessarily something that I'm creating willfully, it's something that is happening as I begin to utilize my physical weight becoming balanced in 0 point as I'm moving. Okay? So, wonderful. 5, 6, 7,